Good stuff. I see
holiday.
a whole bunch of people that I recognize out here. I'm going to catch up with a bunch of you guys after this.
Scott Paul.
So yeah, Sean's, keep it super simple. Shonduras, that's my social media handle. This is Holiday. We've both spoken on panels together or separately, but this is our first like duo, side by side at the pulpit here, tag team status, like WWF style.
Why not, right?
I
How many
think
of you have
that's what we'll
seen
do today.
two
Yeah,
grown
tag
men
team.
not on a panel tag teaming like WWF? First
Exactly.
one.
Buckle
All right,
up. Let's go.
here we go.
Go ahead
Double
and start.
power.
Tag in.
I'm
Go
in.
for it.
Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of background, kind of where this all started. So Sean started on Snapchat. Why?
Tag back. I'll grab Snapchat. Okay. Tag back. I'll grab the Snapchat. That's
I don't know why I would tell
unnecessary
that part.
tag.
Go for it.
And even before we start the story, just so you guys know exactly what we're talking about and you're ready to like listen and get something out of this, we're going to be speaking to influencer marketing, how to do it in different budgets, how to do it in different fields, demographics. We're going to give case studies all across the board. So whatever you guys are digging into and whatever you guys are like currently on your plate, hopefully this talk about influencer marketing will resonate with something that you're trying to do or be a new path for you to go down, whether it's a small budget, big budget, whatever. So I think that's the title, so maybe I didn't need to say that. But that's what we're going to be speaking to, and we're going to very much focus on helping you guys actually move the needle in that category and either get jump-started or if you're already doing it, implement new strategies that we've been doing for the past couple of years.
So like the background, this story right now, this background story, is to give a little bit more of like why we can really talk about and have that like domain expertise from multiple angles. And so we want to give you backstory, where we're currently at, where we see the market going, and then what you can take away today, notes on the notepad to get started, whatever budget or whatever expectation you have.
You didn't tag me. Tag back.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'll jump on the story now. Richie, as soon as you sit down, I'll get started. No worries. I just want to make sure everyone's sitting. Okay, thank you. All right, so it all starts out on Snapchat. Doing my thing here in Utah. I was actually a sales rep for snowboard, skateboard companies. So worked for DC, Neff, Beats by Dre, and I was going through stores and telling them about the new products and how they should put them in their store and get them to market and how they're going to sell and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it. But ultimately, when I was doing that, I started doing Snapchat because I started to meet lots of pro snowboarders and going on these trips and jumping out of helicopters. And so, I put it all on Snapchat. It blew up, hit the front page of Reddit. Next thing I knew, I had like thousands of followers. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm famous. What do I do with my life now? I have 1,000 followers. And it was exciting. And I started going down that road. And that's when I saw an opportunity. I started to learn about influencer marketing. I saw YouTubers working with brands for the very first time. This was like 5 years ago or so. I saw Viners. Remember Vine before it died? I saw Viners starting to work with brands for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I could be the first guy to work with brands on Snapchat? That could be so cool. So I went down the road and tried to do everything I could to be the first guy to have a big enough following to be able to work with brands. I went to events like this. I networked, whatever, and I lucked out because the very first person that I worked with was Disney. And that kicked off. It was the very first Snapchat brand deal ever. We went to Disneyland, crushed it. It did so good, and they got so much traffic on Snapchat. The Snapchat said, dude, you guys want this like geo filter thing? So then they got the very first geo filters. And then from there, worked with Red Bull, Taco Bell, etc. I'm doing my thing, crushing on Snapchat. And the big leg up that I got is that nobody really knew how to get famous on Snapchat. You couldn't go viral. It disappeared, right? So the way I did, I won't get into all those back-end strategies, but it was very much a business hustle. I hit up articles. I made sure I was being featured on the internet. I did collaborations, blah, blah, blah. And I was able to become the first and kind of only viral Snapchatter, right? Now, why that matters is there was a point in time where every brand wanted to work on Snapchat. Like I just told you, I did the first Snapchat brand deals. That was hard work, and it finally got there. But eventually, every brand was like, hey, we need to figure this out. The engagement was insane. I had a 31% conversion ratio on a call to action. So I said, go follow this account, go download this app. 31% of my audience did it, which at the time, that was a really high number. So it was really powerful. Marketers knew that. And that's where we're like, okay, influencer marketing, got it. Learn from the marketers, learn what they wanted. And I started going down that road. That's where I met Holiday. It was actually a funny deal because I'm not much of a football guy. I was at a football game. I don't know what it was called.
It's a national championship,
That one?
2016.
Yep.
So Sean comes into town. He texts me. So we...
Tag, go for it.
I'm in. So we had served a mission together. So Shonduras comes from Honduras, the country. So we had served together in Honduras. So we'd
like
known
that?
each other, but it had been probably 7 or 8 years since we had even touched base. Like really even...
Kind of dating us. It was like
Had
a
a
couple months
conversation.
probably.
So we finally... Like he hits me up. He's like, hey, you're in Arizona, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I don't want to stay at this hotel. Could I just come and crash at your house? I'm like, dude, we have a little house. Like, you could sleep on the couch if you want. He's like, that's fine. Like, cool, my editor. I'm like, 2 of you? Like, all right, whatever. So they come and crash. And at the time, I was building crowd mics. So it was this app that turned your phone into a microphone in a live event. So right now, if Richie wanted to ask a question, instead of trying to run him a mic, give him the mic, you could talk into your phone, and it would come over the sound system. So we had started this tech. So the whole full circle of how we're like actually on stage right now and got close with Chris in 97th Floor was that I hit Chris just guerrilla market, just hustling. And I was like, hey man, I see you're speaking at Salesforce, like Dreamforce. Any way that you would like let us use our technology in your session? He's like, yeah, dude, for sure. I was like, okay. So that's when I met Chris like 5 or 6 years ago, was that he stepped up in this little tiny scrappy startup and let us use his platform. Like, he was up on stage, probably 250 people, 300 people, and he let us use crowd mics. So that's my backstory quickly about how I had met Chris. So Sean comes into town.
Back to the slumber party.
That's right. We literally stay up all night. And when I say up like all night, like 2, 3 in the morning, I'm talking like sun's rising. I can hear my kids like, Dad. I'm like, wait, what? All right. So that night we had kind of done really organized what we were both doing. Here's what I'm attacking, right, in the conference event space. Here's what he was doing with Snapchat. He had just kind of started on YouTube and where he was at. And we were kind of winding down on the crowd mic side. We had Biamp approach us for acquisition. And so we were like, okay, like crazy, what do we do next? And Sean's like, well, dude, I think there might be a place up in Utah. Like, I think there's a way that we can turn even more eyeballs towards influencer marketing. I'm just kind of doing it as a one-man shop with my phone right now, but maybe we could like take it more serious and like proactively in front of brands. And so that night, that was like, what, January?
If
8
I
months
remember
fast
back,
forwards.
we like built it out. Like we pretty close to what we ended up executing on a couple months later. We built it all out in one night. Business plans on paper, nails painted, like full slumber party. It was amazing.
It was
okay,
amazing.
Jump back in.
So we from there, I came up and started working with Sean. No knowledge of the industry. Didn't have like the YouTube app on my phone.
This dude didn't know who PewDiePie was. No offense if no one else does, but he didn't know who PewDiePie was.
Didn't know who PewDiePie was. Didn't know who Casey Neistat was. Like, no clue of the industry, but I knew that there was this really high profit margin, right? And this really intriguing piece called influencer marketing that people wanted. We saw these 32% ratio, conversion ratios, and those that are familiar with conversion ratios from like an ad, that's just insane. So I was like, there's gotta be a way to get in there. So I came up, he took a risk. We started working.
It was Q4. Tag me real quick. Q4, we're looking at Q4 here. He comes in, busiest time of the year, and he just helps me slay these deals. I had so many brands lined up that want to do stuff on Snapchat. Again, the call to action was there. We had, I think in December, we worked with like 15 to 20 brands. It was almost every other day, but we over-delivered super hard. And he got to see where my head was at and where my vision was at with influencer marketing. It's like, you over-deliver. You become best friends with the brand. You give them things they aren't even expected. At the end of the campaign, I would button everything up in a folder and be like, here's my content, here's my views, here's the ratios, here's some fans that engaged with me, here's some things they want to see. I did this, and just bundle it all up so they're like, wow, that was an amazing experience. So as we knocked out these 15, 20 deals in like a month and a half's time, he learned real fast like what the value adds were in influencer marketing. And so then when Q1 came around, things have slowed down. It's like, all right, it's no longer about Shonduras and my deals and stuff like that. Like, we're going to keep cranking those. But how can we build something more sustainable and scalable? And that's really what, like, that night that we got together, that's really what we were looking at. Is like, how do we bring this to other people? I had so many buddies hit me up and be like, dude, you're working with real brands, which that was the main focus for us starting out. We didn't just want to be like, download this app, do this. Like, the traditional ads you see on social media and they're all over the place. We didn't want to just do that. So we chased the big guys like the Subarus who will send you a car to work with you and like those kind of things, right? The Taco Bells, the Red Bulls, the big brands that you're used to. And he got a taste of all of that. And that's where we started going down the road with my friends who were like, hey, I want to work with big brands with that. How could I do that? And I had kicked them a couple emails. So I'm working with Taco Bell. Burger King says, hey, we have chicken fries coming out. Do you want to do this? Instead of being like, nah, I'm good. I already got these guys. Or trying to do both deals and just looking like a sellout. I'd be like, hey, I can't do that. But what about my buddy over here? He could kind of do that. And so Holiday started to manage those. And he'd be like, hey, we have this deal for you. And we started to run these little deals. And I mean, because we had a good network of high-end influencers, there was Tanner Fox, Peter McKinnon, H3H3,
Ace Family,
Shad the Yeagers. There's like 5 people right out of the gates that were really big players that were like, can you help us get deals? And we started getting them deals. And it wasn't about, I think the way we really won is when you work with an agency sometimes, it just feels like, it's a contract, there's deliverables, you check off the boxes. We came in hot and just really provided value. I came in on the content side and said, here's how I would position it. Let's make it more about you being the hero. Pro tip, write this one down. This is a good one. You don't have to, but maybe. In a contract, why don't you put engagement into things, right? So you say, you have to do a post, you have to tag us, you have to use this hashtag because we're trying to get it trending or whatever it is. Why don't you put engagement in there? Like, you need to comment back to 5 fans. You need to retweet 3 fans who participate in the contest. You need to comment back to 50 people on your YouTube video. You put that engagement in the contract and it goes so much farther because then it shows that you actually care about the brand you're working with and it's a real conversation and it's not just like, I had to make this, insert brand as a quick commercial and then come back. Second thing, and then I'll tag team you back. But second thing here, if you want to write down, I didn't see many people writing, but that's okay. I'm not going to let it affect me. Second thing is, if you're working with a brand and you're cool, fun, professional, fun haver, best day ever, this is all great. Oh, and then, hey guys, so Red Bull actually has this new flavor. I enjoy it a lot. You guys should check it out. My link's in the bio, and it would be really great. I have a discount code. Anyways, back to fun. Let's go skateboard and whatever. It just kind of feels like a little commercial break, and that happens so much on social media. So what I started doing and what we kind of trained our fleet of integrations guys to do right out of the gates is over-deliver for the brand. Make them the hero. If you're in a helicopter about to snowboard drop out for the first time, whatever, and you're like, this is so insane, I'm so nervous, Red Bull, I can't believe you made this happen, this is insane. Guys, this video happened because of Red Bull, I can't even believe it. One, that I would get to work with Red Bull. I grew up watching my idols work with Red Bull. And 2, we're in a helicopter right now. This is nutty. Okay, all right, we're about to jump out. Sorry, I'm nervous. I'm just rambling now. And make the brand the hero. Red Bull made this happen, and I'm so glad they did. And then everyone's like, dude, Red Bull's awesome for making that happen. And then Red Bull's pumped because they want to work with us again. They weren't just a commercial break. They were part of my brand. So that's kind of how we started with our influencers.
That's very much. So we tag back. We started on the talent side, right? So at the core, what we were doing was talent management. So you'd get a big talent, big photographer, Peter McKinnon, if you're familiar with him, Tanner Fox, 8.5 million on YouTube, 4 million on Instagram. So these guys have significant audiences that they can move people, right? And we came from the talent side to say, all right, how do we organically make this fit with Red Bull and not just all of a sudden stop, like Sean said, and be like, oh, this video is sponsored by Red Bull. Thank you for all this. What else do I have to say? Okay, got it, cool. All right, back to what we were doing. We taught these guys and we saw from a creator's perspective how to make it natural and how to make their audiences engage with that. So fast forward to today, we're a year and a half old and almost 2 years in the influencer marketing integration space, and we've shifted to say, cool, all the brands reaching out to our talent, we would take that and say, yep, we can do the deal for X amount and these deliverables and figure out the contract and go for it. We've now learned through these guys spending tons of money, right, and tons of different environments and situations, we've learned to say, okay, here's how we can give back to our clients, right? Here's how we can start to serve. So now integration stands as a talent management firm where we still stand by our talent and we'll always stand by our talent, but we now are more of a front-facing agency where we take brand budget and we put it into the market. So we identify, they say, a big brand that we work with is Storyblocks. So it's, It's stock footage that you can use, to fill and say you're shooting a shot in Ireland, but there's a specific one that they will not allow you to get a drone up in the air. But man, it would really complete your footage. You can purchase it and put it into your video. So we went to them and said, hey, we work with Peter McKinnon, who's the #1 photographer on the platform. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And they're like, yeah, let's do the deal. Did the deal, successful for everyone. And then we're like, well, wait, there's a lot of these guys. There's a lot of photographers that we can do this with. And so we started finding this talent that didn't just, when we sent them an email, they didn't just say, oh yeah, I guess I can do it. How much are you going to pay again? Oh, it's $5,000. 30 seconds, right? Yeah, by contract, I guess it's 30 seconds. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can do it, I guess. We started targeting and saying, hey, these are a long-term partner. We've worked with them a lot. They're great. They're their product is amazing. Like, we want to work with you on a 2 or a 3-part series, right? And so we'd come back to the brand and say, hey, I know you had $5K budget, but with 12 or 15 or whatever the number is, we can do this 3-part series with this talent. So we get 3 touch points with their audience, and we're going to do it over a month, or we're going to do it over 2 months, or whatever that timing is. And the talent's like, this is the biggest deal I've ever done. This is amazing, right? Like, this is the biggest deal I've ever signed in one sitting. Yet, on paper, if you backed it up, we actually like decreased the rate a little bit to get more of them, right? So that's like on a brand perspective, and I don't know how many are brands out here, are their own brands, are agencies, right? We just, to take a deal and say, this is what it is, and this is what you have to do, you have to get creative and say, this is what we are trying to accomplish, and this is the audience that you have, and how do we mash that together, right? How do we make the creative fit? How do we make the budget and the call to actions fit? And then how do we follow kind of the metrics? And so have a couple like hard data points, like take notes, and that's one of those. But right, we have spent enough time in this space to get both perspectives of like the audience, like the talent doing the deals and doing that side of it, and then now as an agency helping direct those kinds of deals to say, instead of just doing one single shout out and everybody cross their fingers, let's hope that 30 seconds is effective. Let's confirm that we can do 3 shout outs, play with the budget a little bit, and now we know that we're at least going to get that much more reach and that much more content.
Good job, dude. That was really great.
Thanks.
Takeaways from that, I mean, there's a ton of them, but some of the biggest ones there is like, don't go for a one-off thing. Go for a long-term play with a brand or with an influencer, because it feels way more organic. I know that word's thrown out here a lot, but when you take a campaign and move it from 5K to happen once to 11 or 12K to happen 3 or 4 times, you're getting a better bang for your buck. The creator is now looking more organic to their audience. It wasn't just a one and done like deal they had to do. It's like, no, I actually like to do this. You also kind of sift through the people that like, if they don't actually like your brand or product and this is just fake money, then they're not going to want to do this 4 or 5 times. They're just going to want to do it once and then get rid of it. You know what I mean? So just that one topic or like that one discussion point right there can save you guys a ton of wheels turning in the long run if you build it out to be a win-win for everyone in that long run, right?
I have one. I have a thought. So within that, I think oftentimes it's like, okay, we have to set aside this much budget. It's got to be this much dollar amount to like get people intrigued. One of the biggest collaborations we did and longest was with One Wheel. Have you guys ever seen like the one, it's like a wheel that you stand on and you balance and you can drive with it? So we said that, look, I know they had no marketing dollars. Literally, we tried everything we could to get some kind of money out of them.
Brand new company. Their product was really expensive. There wasn't a high demand. It was hard for people to even know what a One Wheel is or if it works. So they were kind of in a rough spot.
But we were in a place where we were like, look, we need to make content daily, and that's a really cool product that we think we could it would fit into our culture of the content we were making. And so we said, look, if you guys will send us 6 One Wheels, so to them that was like an $8,000 retail price. If you can send us 6 One Wheels, we are going to do this video. We're going to go on this crazy adventure and do all this crazy stuff. And then the next video we're going to do is we're going to customize them. We're going to make them like our colors and our vibe, right? And we went on and on and on. And the brand was like, okay. So we didn't necessarily
They were pretty nervous about it.
Yeah, we didn't exchange dollars, but we exchanged products and goods for visibility. Those videos went on. We probably cumulative have 20-ish million views on YouTube around One Wheel that started as an $8,000 exchange of goods. We'll give you some One Wheels. We'll give you some content. It worked for us and was amazing, and we got some great growth and trajectory, but it also was insanely amazing for them. So if you're out there and you're Cotopaxi and you have backpacks, go find people that you can say, hey, if I give you a backpack, will you do an Instagram story swipe up? Yeah, sure, that's fine. And that person might have 20,000 followers, not 200,000, right? And you say, cool, 20,000, the cost of goods on that backpack is whatever amount. That marketing dollar spend, right? When you look at your marketing dollars and your budgets, the cost of goods for that item to the reach you're going to get from that Instagram story swipe up, you can't even like calculate that, because the return's significantly higher than what you would have to try to spend to go out and do the official influencer marketing, which we get a lot of times where we have brands come to us and is like, hey, we have $3,000. And it's like, you know what? Keep your $3,000. I'm actually probably gonna have a better and easier time if you can give me 20 of your product. And they're like, oh, I could do that. I could give you 20. I'm like, cool. I go back to the talent. I'm like, hey, dude, we're gonna get 20 of these things. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be an insane video. We're gonna have this and that, and we can do this and that. And they're like, oh, dude, that's actually really, really dope. Like, for sure. Like, okay, well, cool. Money's not necessarily exchanged. Exposure, push, visibility's there, and it all makes sense. So that was a case study that we actually did where we got product in exchange for, visibility and push to our audience. So takeaway from that is whether you're just a tiny Kickstarter, right? Richie's left. Sorry, I was going to talk about Richie, right? Richie, if you guys know, Richie had this switch pod. It's like a tripod that you use for camera stuff. And they were pushing it to the market. They pushed it out, floated it. It was doing pretty well. And then we reached out to Peter McKinnon. So he's this huge photographer. And they're like, yo, Pete, what would it look like to work with you to push the switch pod? So we figured it out, what the terms and everything made sense. And we're like, yeah, this is a Kickstarter project. We're like, yeah, sure. They sent it to Pete. He believed in it. He's like, yep, it's a product I can push and get behind. Pete pushed it, and in one day, he did $140,000 of revenue for their Kickstarter, and they passed their goal. Targeted audience, and they saw that, they knew that if Pete fit into what they had, that it would exponentially grow their brand value, brand traffic, and we got to a point where they didn't have to come up front and put down, right, what Pete's normal rates would be, because we found a different way to do it. So take what you have, whether you're Cotopaxi and you got a backpack or your AirPod, Apple and you've got AirPods, hand these out and say, if you'll do 3 Instagram stories, I will give you this, and learn from that, collect that data, and then when you make your bet, right, you have a lot more to hedge against. You have a lot more to say, okay, it worked at a 20,000 follower level and we got this much traffic. Let's go to a 200,000 follower level with this much money.
In that same vein, I'll take the tag. In that same vein, let's talk to those people who are sitting here saying, well, I don't have a product, right? I don't have a backpack or a tripod or something like that. How does that work? And you also have to think about the value add and what's important to that creator. So in the One Wheel scenario, my branding at the time was very much like professional fun haver, best day every day, and also skateboarding and snowboarding and adventures and all that stuff, right? So every time I made a video with a One Wheel, it was an awesome thumbnail, like this weird hoverboard thing that only had one wheel in the middle. It was very curious, and every single one of those videos I did got over 1 million views, to the point where it was almost like this I win button that I didn't want to use too much and abuse it. So it was like every 2 weeks on the dot, I'd be like, all right, One Wheel video, got to get my views up. You know what I mean? And it was like a good thing for me to be able to get my views up, and it fit my brand. So let's dive into another example of that. We did the back to school campaign for Tilly's. They are like a Zoomies, a skateboard, snowboard vibe chain across the country, and back to school is their biggest time. We did influencer marketing with them last year, and I was like the, spokesperson for their back to school, and we did this fun contest and whatnot, and it was cool. We enjoyed working with each other and became really good friends. So then when back to school came last year, they said, guys, can we hire you to build out a campaign? We want something that's engaging. We don't have tons of budget because we're still trying to prove this influencer marketing thing and stuff like that, but we do have decent budget, and how could you guys creatively put something together? So we looked at the budget they had and what their goals were and what they wanted to do, and they wanted to work with me again on it because it was just, that long-term partnership. I already talked about Tilly's and how much I loved it, so it made sense to hit it again. And when I work with a brand long-term, I continue to have little touch points throughout the year that are unpaid for because it's a brand I like and I want to be long-term with them, right? So when it comes to back to school again next year, we have this idea of well, what if we did this big rock, paper, scissors contest where you do it in an app and it's AR, so it's kind of cool and you can win discounts, and that was the concept. But how do we get me and other people? They wanted an A-list celebrity involved, like a singer, right? It was how do we get these people involved with the budget you've given us? And that's where we had to get creative, and we built it out. So we were a main part of the app, myself, and it ended up being, what's her name from Echo Smith? Lead singer from Echo Smith. So she came out as well and was like, hey, when we pitched her manager and myself on this, It was like, we are going to be in stores all across the country, these big posters, and then we're going to be in the app, and we're going to be physically playing rock, paper, scissors against people. So she was playing rock, paper, scissors. I was playing rock, paper, scissors. Our fans loved it. They could see us. And the big thing for me there wasn't the money. There was a little bit of financial value there because I did a lot of pushes, and I drove traffic, and I went to LA and filmed for a day on the green screen and stuff. So there was financial commitment there. But the big win for me, and the reason I didn't went super hard, was because my demographic is very much skateboard, snowboard, cool, high school, college age vibe. And I was about to be in these cool stores all across the country, 240 stores with my face on there in these apps that had millions of downloads. And that was a big value add for me and my brand and my personality. And I was able to build content around it. And it was a flex, right? Like, I'm in stores across the country. Guys, this is insane. And it was this moment that was like special for me and my audience, where it was like, we've made it, guys. We're all across the country. And so that's how we built out that campaign without a huge budget to add value for me. You can do the same thing with your brands. We do that all the time, right? So it's like, you did one with Tanner, Puma.
Yeah.
He got to be in the stores.
They had they only had X amount of budget, and for what they wanted, we want this many YouTube videos or this many that. We're like, it just doesn't really make sense. And to be clear, when we talk about budgets, right, this is how they make their money. Like, this is like somebody coming to you if you're a doctor, and they're like, yo, just give me like x-rays and like check all my stuff like for free. Like, sorry, like I just literally can't do that. Like, influencers, as much as you look in, they're putting out content all the time and talking about whatever, how they actually take home money to their families is by influencing, is by being protective of when they talk about a brand. And so that's why you constantly hear us talking about fighting for budget and money, because that's how, we make our living. So same with Tanner. Puma came to us and was like, hey, we got this shoe and we want to do this, whatever. And we're like, oh man, just doesn't quite justify the budget. And then it locks us up exclusive in the Puma shoe. So if somebody else came to us and was like, hey, we have this big deal, we're like, oh, well, crap, we took a tiny deal with Puma, so that sucks. So we're like, look, if you will make us the face of this shoe, we'll do it. Like, well, what does that entail? And I'm like, it means we are going to be the poster, like the shelf space that you have in Finish Line stores. It's going to be the shoe, and it's going to be Tanner Fox above it, and it's going to say Tanner Fox. And they're like, I don't know. Went back, forth, ended up across 70 Finish Line stores. You walked in, Tanner Fox had a huge poster. It was like that big of him, and then a shoe right underneath it in the display. And so he would push his audience and be like, oh. So people would go there in their Instagram stories or their tweets or their Snapchat and be like, oh my gosh, Tanner made it. Perception, the world thinks we probably did a 7, 8, 10 million, 10-figure deal, right? This shoe deal, well, LeBron James did a shoe deal. That's insane. It must have been millions of dollars. It wasn't. But we twisted it so that perception felt like that. The brand got what they wanted, and then Tanner got this really cool experience and feeling to walk into a Finish Line store and see his name, his picture, and this shoe that people perception-wise thought it was his shoe. It wasn't. It was just a shoe that they had already come out with, but it looked like we had built the structure of the deal and the way that it was his shoe. So
perception-wise is like a huge part of influencer marketing. You have the perception of the brand being attached to Shonduras or Tanner Fox, and it makes the brand cooler and younger and appeal to that demographic, and it's a warm intro and stuff like that. But then perception is also really important to influencers. As you guys are going to influencers, when we use the example of the backpack, yes, that's a good idea, but it has to be strategic, right? You don't just send me an email and say, we'll send you a backpack, will you make content for it? Because all the influencer hears is, oh, you want me to do stuff for free. No, that's not going to work. You have to tell the story and build out the campaign. Similar to Tilly's, if we wouldn't have built that out and been so strategic, I don't think the point would have come across as well, especially for an A-list singer, right? So when you're thinking about that stuff, it's like, how does this... We have talent that will legitimately turn down a $40,000 deal just because they're so busy or they don't want to do it or whatever. And it's just like, bro, like one day, just do it. You'll get $40,000.
We're talking 2 Instagram stories, 30 seconds.
But like, you also have to realize influencers know what their value is. They know that they can push traffic. And when you think of an A-list celebrity or athlete, it's like they're kind of hard to work with and they demand high budgets, right? So the best way around that is understand what's important to them and how do they want to be perceived. So that same influencer, this is actually an actual case study, that same influencer that turned down a $40,000 deal, we were just like trolling about in the office, like, how is this real life? And then the very next day, we're like, yo, One Wheel wants to send you a One Wheel. Would you be down? Like, would you put it on your story or anything? He's like, heck yeah, are you serious? That's insane. Like, do you think I could get 2 so I could ride with a buddy? And like, yeah, I'll definitely put on my story. Like, I'll probably actually even tweet about it and stuff like that. And it's like, this guy's ready to go super hard just because he's hyped on a One Wheel. It's like, okay, that's just the influencer, his perception. He's not thinking things through, but that is how influencers work, right? That's their world. And so the more you know that, the better off you are. If you can get strategic with your pitch and with your campaign and what the perception is for you and the influencer, I think you guys are getting this. We're just trying to say it in a way that's more creative than like find a win-win situation. You guys already know that. Like the brand's got to give a little, the influencer's got to give a little, you meet in the middle. We don't want to tell you that because you already know that. It's not always practiced with brands and influencers, but that is the way to do it. So what we're trying to do is dive into these weeds of like, how do you actually do that? How do you give that perception? How do you give the value add? And then obviously financials is a part of that, right? Couple more case studies. Let's go to different demographics and stuff.
Yeah, so really it comes down to like narrowing down into the audience that will convert for what you're talking about. So a couple case studies, Sean with Tilly's.
1 sec. Do we have 5 minutes till Q&A or 5 minutes till it's all over?
Q&A, right?
Is that correct?
Yeah, 5 minutes to Q&A.
All right, cool. Just want to make sure we didn't miss Q&A.
Yeah, we'll keep moving. Case studies, Peter McKinnon with Adobe. Perfect fit. He does tutorials. We reached out to them and said, hey, we're already posting content about what you're doing. This would be an amazing fit. We can just do it in a more targeted call to action. And they're like, yeah, perfect. Let's go for it. One of my favorites and one of the like kind of big wins for us, over the last 12 months, we had Tanner Fox is 19-year-old kid. When we picked him up, he had these Instagram handles. His Instagram handle is now 4 million. His car had 500,000 Instagram followers. We're like, what? A car has 500,000 Instagram followers? Like, yeah. So we took and said, this is insane. How do we optimize and use this leverage of a car having that much engagement? We went to Hot Wheels and said, hey, this kid, one, has this huge audience, both on Instagram and YouTube, but his car has its own audience. It has its own voice. So we worked with Hot Wheels to build this amazing product. So we were the first to launch a Hot Wheels car based off of his car. So influencer-based Hot Wheels car. So we put 1 million in the stores, had amazing co-branded content, co-branded merch, this crazy huge thing, and it was a home run for everybody. Tanner now can walk in and flex and be like, I have a Hot Wheels car. Actually blow your mind. Yeah. Hot Wheels is like, we're doing influencer marketing. We're cutting edge. Like, we're really good at what we do. We put 1 million of these in the stores and they sold out. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And it all just was a perfect mesh of expectations to dollars to what that like.
Let me touch on one more thing since we have 3 minutes. So I'll just use that example. You get in front, influencer marketing, there's so many different ways to do it, right? I think that you guys are getting what we're picking up here, we're dishing out and you're picking it up and you're getting it, that it's not just about the budget, it's not about what brand you are, it's about how you build out the study. It's what the strategy behind influencer marketing is, and that's where we came in as someone who very much knows business and how to drive results, and someone who is creative and knows how a creator thinks. Like that's what we were able to obtain. So what I want to leave with you guys before we get into Q&A is like, yes, influencer marketing is powerful, but you have to do it correctly, and part of that correctness isn't just the things we were talking about. There's so many different aspects to it. Think about this. If we do the Hot Wheels deal, Tanner's like, guys, we got a Hot Wheels car. This is so cool. Oh my gosh, like I love this. And like his audience is hyped, he's hyped, everything's going good. Cool, successful campaign. But what happens if you remarket to his audience for the next 6 months? So for the next 6 months, Hot Wheels buys the rights to reach Tanner's audience. These could be guys that are subscribed to his YouTube channel, someone who's watched one of his videos in the past week, someone who follows him on Instagram and Facebook. Like we have access to these creators' demographics, and through remarketing, you do a home run campaign, knock it out of the park, build that win-win that we've talked about, and then when his audience loves Tanner, loves Hot Wheels, all of a sudden they start seeing Hot Wheels all over in this track set, and it's almost Christmas time, and like, oh, this big loop-de-loop with a volcano and a dinosaur. It's like, wow, maybe I do kind of want that, because they know that Hot Wheels is cool because they've seen Tanner messing with it, and all of a sudden they're getting fed all these remarketing, like, oh, I could do that, I could do that. That's where you really hit a home run and you start to see sales. Influencer marketing drives brand awareness. It does drive sales. It can drive your social to increase. It can give you brand equity, like whatever it is, but At the end of the day, if you need to sell your service or your product, sometimes you need to remarket. And that's something that is just barely coming out in social. Like I'm talking the past 6 months to a year, remarketing is really hitting hard. We're just barely starting to figure it out. Like we're on the front ends of remarketing. It's insanely powerful. We've done it in a couple recent campaigns. It's like, this is a game changer. How are we not remarketing for the past 2 years in influencer marketing? So we're almost out of time, but I just wanted you guys to realize like there's much more than we can dive into right here.
And influencer marketing is not just the one solve. Okay, got it. Like it's driving top funnel, right? And then you're capturing and you have to remarket to them. And now you've got, even if you paid the money and you got them to push, it might, like Sean said, it might have just been brand value, right? They might not have purchased anything, but now they've seen your stuff. You got it in front of 50,000 people like that. And now your brand equity and your brand value increases. And so,
and you make those sales because they're reminded about it all the time, right?
Yeah. I think one more note that I had, it's just there's brands that are doing this insanely well and have been, and you're probably familiar with some of these. You've got Dollar Shave Club, right, that have been doing crazy influencer marketing, amazing job at remarketing as well. Movement Watches, they only did influencer marketing, like solely. They didn't know TVCs or anything else. Just influencer marketing. They went from doing like 2 million in revenue to 200 million by just doing influencers. You've seen the watch. It's just MVMT everywhere. Anyone who's literally on Instagram, you've seen that before because they just went super, super hard. A lot of gaming stuff, Brawl Stars, PUBG Mobile, Apex Legends.
Almost all games that come out right now. Apex Legends is the game that just kind of dethroned Fortnite in the gaming space. I guess in the diehard gaming scene, it kicked out Fortnite. In the 12-year-old in your house scene, your 12-year-old's probably still playing Fortnite. But they completely took out a game that was on top of the leaderboards, and they got more viewership, higher views on Twitch, all this stuff. And their sole focus was influencer marketing.
It said 10 million active users in 1 week, and they just used influencer marketing. Now, they were using millions of dollars of budget, but they had 10 million active users in a week's time by using influencer marketing because the distribution of information to a insanely targeted market, you get your results. That was another thing that we've touched on, but like the more targeted you can get, the better your results. So if you're Adobe or Canon, you want Peter McKinnon. If you're a car, Yokohama Tires, you want Dustin Williams or TJ Hunt or Eliminate. You want a car guy, right? You want a guy that's what his content is, and that's who 80% of his audience is. So now you know you're at least in front of, and you're spending marketing dollars towards an audience that loves that specific, whatever your product or service is.
And the reason that works so well, like final statement, just like cherry on top for influencer marketing, when you see a movie trailer, I guess, and you see them on TV, you see them before other movies, you see them on social media, you're just like, another movie trailer, like been seeing these my whole life. It doesn't really affect you. You may or may not get an inclination to watch it or even decide to go, right? But when you meet up with your buddy or your wife or your kids or whatever, they're like, oh my gosh, I just went and saw this new movie. It was so crazy. Like I actually liked it. And someone gives you that warm, friendly recommendation that you trust, you're actually going to go to that movie. And that's what influencer marketing is. Traditional marketing, you're getting in front of someone. Influencer marketing, you're getting in front of someone's friend, and that friend is telling them that I like this. And if that friend does a good job, which is what we focus on, then it's knocked out of the park. And then you remarket to them and knock it out of the park again. So we got 13 minutes, 27 seconds for Q&A. Let's do that. Wait, let's clap first because that was really good, right? Yeah! Okay,
We've also been given a little tool, a Fire TV stick, for those that are participating in the Q&A.
Best question.
Best question gets this bad boy.
How you're dressed has nothing to do with winning that, just best question, okay?
Okay, we got one in the back over here.
Can you just speak a little bit to how this would look if you have maybe a platform that your product is solely just a membership and your demographic is a lot older? What would that maybe look like?
Yeah, so Storyblocks, the very first case study I used, it's a service, it's a platform, it's not a physical backpack or Hot Wheels car. And that demo that they're targeting is a 25 to 40-year-old photographer. So we need to go and narrow down to an audience. You're not going to use Tanner Fox, right? You're going to go and narrow down to their core. And we can know some of these metrics on the back end of their YouTube channel or Instagram or Facebook. We're going to narrow down and say, this is who, right, would make sense and can speak to that age demo. And obviously dive into the next part, the creative and the story and what they do. But there's definitely, a human element of that part of it that you say, this creator speaks to this type of person or this age demo, and let's give that a shot.
Find someone who really benefits from that platform you just discussed. I smiled when you said that because just this morning we had results come back from a creator that we worked with. It was with story blocks, which is the B-roll thing, but the creator we used was such a small creator that we weren't even sure about using. We hadn't worked with him a whole bunch, but what he does is talk to people about YouTube strategy and how to do this and that and the other. So when he did a Storyblocks campaign, it was perfect for his audience because he's teaching people how to do YouTube better. So when he says, hey, use B-roll, you don't have to go out and shoot it, you can just pull it from this website, his audience, which was ready to learn how to do YouTube better, was like, boom, that's a tip I need, and it was perfect. If I did Storyblocks, I think I would do a good job and talk about how I film and how B-roll is important to my storyline. And it'll be good, but I'm not gonna have the same results that he got with less followers because it was so targeted. Yep. Next question. This guy. What's up?
So you've actually used the word bet or gamble to describe influencer marketing.
Mm-hmm.
What's something I haven't heard you guys talk about is turning influencers into performance-based influencers so that they're getting paid per sale or per whatever the metric is. What's stopping the influencers from taking deals that would basically turn them into an affiliate, where from a business side, it's more skin in the game from the influencer, allowing them to feel like it's not so much of a gamble.
Yeah.
And getting results that way.
Yeah, I have so on that side, you can offer affiliate links and that can work for some creators, right? We have creators that make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 off a link in their video, right? But when you come and say as a brand, we want you to talk about this product. We want you to talk about how the Fire Stick TV can be on any TV and you can connect to it from any device. And when you start telling them what they need to say, right, that's when it starts to become an influencer. Like, that's when it starts to become like an ad, right? Like, you're dictating what story you want to tell,
the
and
content
less
shifts a lot.
Yeah, and less of them being like, hey, I believe a lot of our photographers do a really great job. They say, hey, here's the gear I use, or hey, here's the music, Epidemic Sound, or Storyblock, or wow, what's the other one I'm thinking of?
Here's my thought on it. There's two different ways to do that, and if you just go pure like skin in the game, whatever you push is what you get. You're either going to get weird content that's just super salesy, like click the link. They didn't do creative, they didn't make it organic. They're just trying to drive sales to get paid. That's one thing you might get. And then the other thing is you're just going to get creators like myself who say, nah, man, like if you want to be part of my brand, let's creatively do it, but I'm not just going to sit here and try and drive sales for you. I'm not a store where I'm just telling my guys to buy stuff so I can get paid. That doesn't feel right. And so I don't really do deals like that. I do those kind of link clicks as an additive thing. Like, this is why I love this brand. This is why I love One Wheel, whatever. If you guys want to go buy a One Wheel, I got you guys a coupon code right here, and I think I probably make a little bit of a kickback from it, so that's good. Make sure to click the link. But no, really, it's about this product, and I love it and stuff like that. Then it comes off way more organic if it's just about that driving sell. They're either not interested, which a lot of our top-end influencers that are very engaged and good, they know their value, they're not going to be interested. Or you get the little guys who are like, I'll do it, and they sell their soul to do it, and it kind of gives your brand a weird taste and stuff like that maybe for the audience. It's not bad, though. It's just you have to set it up.
You just got to find, you also just have to set your expectations way back. You just have to be willing to like make, you eat what you kill, and you can't dictate and tell them to say it's orange or it's black or it does this or it does that. They're going to get to tell the story they want.
Who's up?
Right here.
Yo.
What makes a good influencer? I mean, you mentioned people with a million followers all the way down to that guy you just mentioned a second ago.
Yeah.
Not as many. I mean, what is your range that you would say?
So what makes a good influencer is not, he's asking what makes a good influencer. Is it a guy with tons of followers or like this other guy that doesn't have that many followers? There's no Excel spreadsheet that tells you what a good influencer is, and that's why if you're going to write something down, please just write something down. This is it. Influencer marketing is solely based off of your strategy. It can be the most effective use of your money in the entire world, biggest bang for your buck, or it can literally be the worst use of money and you just paid a lot of money to have someone say your name in a video and nothing else happened. It's all down to the partnership. And part of that partnership is on your end, the brand's end or whatever, to figure out what that win-win is and the perception and all the things we've talked about. But the creator side, if there's a creator that's really expensive and he has tons of followers, I would really look at it. How many brands has he worked with? Is his audience just used to this? When you see a commercial on TV, autopilot. Like my daughter calls YouTube ads skip-its. She actually thinks they're called skip-its because growing up we'd be like, oh yeah, sorry, don't get mad. You just have to skip it. Because she's, but where's my video I clicked? Oh, wait for the skip it. Okay, skip it. So she thinks they're skip-its and she's just used to it now. They don't make her mad. It's just part of her life, right? So if you have an influencer that's worked with a ton of brands, his audience is like, here comes the skip it. We got to hear this 1 minute pitch, and it just doesn't work, right? If you work with a small influencer, maybe you're not going to get the reach you want, or maybe they're not going to do as well as like this big influencer that really knows how to work the camera and their audience and stuff like that. So there's no exact code. You got to find that middle space value. But think about this, micro influencers. Rather than throwing $50,000 at one big guy that's really expensive, but you get a flex that you worked with that one big guy, what if you spend $1,000 across 50 people like the one I mentioned in that only have 1 to 5,000 followers, or 10 to 50,000 followers, or 50 to 100, wherever your price range is. Those followers are so engaged and they're so happy for their creator once they get their first partnership or deal. If you can be a brand that is doing the first 5 deals with a creator, one of the first 5 deals they've ever done, that's where you're going to see your return. And I'm not counting out, guys. I've done tons of brand deals. I'm not counting me out because I know how to strategically do them, but you just got to double check that I know how to strategically do them, because if I've done a lot and I'm not doing them strategically, it's just going to feel like a skip it. Does that make sense? Cool. It is hard. Like, honestly, that's why I would work with an agency or talk to someone who has worked with them, or go look at past deals they've done. The hardest part of influencer marketing is picking an influencer that is going to fit. And you're picking an actor for a movie. That actor dictates how good the movie is, that main actor. That influencer dictates how good your marketing is. So really go careful with that. And that's why we chose to focus so heavily on influencers, because if they over deliver and do well, the whole campaign will go better. You just ask them. It's like a
it's on
deliverable.
Instagram, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 10,000.
There you go.
Next question. What's up?
Go ahead there, and then we're going to you. Go for it. Yeah. So he's asking, like, as a brand, how do you get the conversation started with the 10 or the 50 or however big that influencer is? Most organic way and like the best way is reach out as the brand and say, hey, we want to work with you. Hey, we love what you're doing, and be familiar with their stuff. Not just like, hey, we want to work with you. Be like, hey, we saw that you took your dogs to this. We got this dog product. Hey, we saw in your recent video that you did this. We have this product. So like, know a little bit about who they are and organically get to them. A huge thing that we do is like, you can go through and see, one, this is like our business model and strategy, but you come and say, hey, we want to get in front of this person. We go and say, oh, that person follows Shonduras. I know Shonduras. I hit Sean and be like, yo, could you intro me to X person? Like, yeah. And then I hit him and I'm like, yo, these guys want to start doing influencer marketing. You're one of their first goes. So like, they're pretty timid on what it's going to look like, but they definitely want to get going. And it's like, wait, what? Like, I can't tell you how many times we've been the first to like break into and be the influencer marketing for a brand, because we're going to try super hard and like really give them back the value. So start from a brand to creator perspective. If that doesn't work, then go brand to a friend to get to them, angle, and try to do that. A huge part is these guys get hundreds of emails a day. So if you are going to send an email, put paid collaboration, paid interest. Yeah. Like I got an email from Hyundai and it was like, it was collaboration. Do you know how many 14-year-old kids send emails? Collaboration, like, I want you to shout me out, man. Hey, it's my friend's birthday. Would you mind like giving him a shout out? I missed a Hyundai email. It's a $100,000 deal. I just literally deleted it. I was like, this is stupid. They came back. They're like, hey, following back up. They finally DM the creator and were like, hey, we emailed you, not hearing back. And the creator's like, yo, dude, where'd that email go? I'm like, what? Look up their name, Hyundai, and I'm like, are you actually kidding me? Like, collaboration in the title? So be strategic that like you want to catch their eye and be like, paid collaboration, like, ooh, okay. And then it might be paid in a different way or some affiliate thing or whatever the approach is.
Also
but
think about what they really want. If I get an email that's just like, I want to work with you, who knows what that means, right? But if I get an email that's like, hey man, I'd really like to send you 10 backpacks so you can give them away to your fans. I don't have much budget, but I have 10 backpacks. If it goes good, then I think I can allocate more budget. And just like tell them straight up like what you think you could do and what's it all about. Like don't leave them guessing, right? Like let them know exactly what the deal is and also play into their strengths. Like whatever, if they're a hiker in the backpack, be like, hey, love your hikes. Like I think this would actually work for you for X, Y, and Z. Just have a real conversation. Don't reach out as a brand, reach out as a person. This guy.
Yeah, Sean, I hear you talk a lot about products. Do you see any success with services?
Yeah, I mean, a lot on the photography side because that's where we have a great like core talent. So Epidemic Sound is a non-copyright music service. It's not a product. It's just very much a service. Storyblocks is a service. Squarespace, the website, service. They spend tons and tons of money in influencer marketing. Adobe is,
When it comes to service,
digital
you just need
service
to
or
make
product.
sure that it's like a service that resonates with the talent, right? Like we could make a list all day of services,
Yep.
but it's like if it resonates with the talent, they're interested. If you're trying to get me to do a service for motorcycle, whatever, and I don't ride motorcycles, not gonna work. If you're trying to get me to do a service for Storyblocks and I love storytelling and I make videos every day, that does work. So.
It sounds like Space Station is kind of a shop that we can go to.
Yeah, I mean, so we have like the conglomerate that he talked about, like the space station as a whole is influencer marketing. So both from like an agency perspective and a talent management perspective. And then we have Space Station Gaming. So we're deep in the esports culture and gaming culture. So if your product resonated with that or you want to reach an audience, Cash App, for example, is like Venmo. We want to reach 14 to 18-year-olds before they get a bank account so they can share money with their friends. Wow, gaming is 14 to 18-year-olds. So like we convinced and we got them excited about being in the gaming space where they traditionally weren't going there. We have direct-to-consumer products. So we actually work with 97th Floor. We're a client where we have a direct-to-consumer toothbrush, subscription-based toothbrush. So we have to be on the top of our game to know how to engage an influencer and know how to remarket to them and know how to tell the story from a brand's perspective. We have a conference ourselves. So like coming up and speaking here, we have a conference called the Vid Summit every fall in LA that has 1,500 attendees. So we have to be sharp on our game if you were, conference trying to get influencers involved. So like between all these different pieces at the space station, we have to like be at the top of our game from a brand. When we're with Bruce or Space Station Gaming is a brand to influencer marketing, which is what me and 7 of my other guys do to, right, Space Station Gaming and a whole nother industry outside of like what we work on.